Yo, 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 yo. What's up, all you burners, stoners, and potheads, and especially all you gardeners out there? This is Mr. Weedman and Big Earl with the Grow Hour. Big Earl, how you doing, my brother?
What's up? I'm doing really good, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I just can't see you today. I can't see you.
That's okay.
Your camera's fucked up, but that's okay. We're still going to make this show work. And we have a special guest on right now, Lance from Grove Bags. How you doing, brother?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Man, thanks for coming on the show. We're going to do our smoke sesh, and you're not going to be able to see Big Earl smoking, but that's okay, because you can see Mr. Weedman smoke. Big Earl, though, you know what I'm smoking? And I haven't smoked this yet, and I'm super stoked. The sour gas. Grown by you. Why don't you tell the folks out there what this is? Because I haven't smoked it yet, so I'm stoked.
Sour gas. So there was actually a competition by SoFem Genetics, and he was doing sour gas packs. And I got on a little late for him, but I packed them. I popped them, and then realized how late I was for his competition. But super gassy, super. They were autoflowers first off.
Wow.
Not my creation, like I said, but real gassy, real nice smoke. I really like those ones.
It's like
I will say this right now, that it is gassy, but it has very nice flavor, and it's not sour to me, but it is very nice and smooth, not harsh at all. I'm looking forward to the high on this, but it tastes really nice, my brother. It's smooth. That's all I can tell you. It's sourly delicious, let's just say. And what are you smoking on, my friend?
All the autos from him have been awesome. So I forgot that I already ground up some weed. So I have GG4 Cross the Stanky Haze. And then I put some of that Stanky, not Stanky Kush Breath in there. So it's a mixture of all of those.
Nice.
It's really good.
Nice. I tell you what, Lance, if we can ever get you some of this GG4 that he grew, and he doesn't have the plant of it anymore, probably one of my favorite strains I've ever gotten from Big Earl in the years that I've known him. Unbelievable. I got a lot of it that I spread out to some people, but I kept the bulk. And I've said this to a lot of people. I'm a pig when it comes to good weed and great weed and unbelievable. So what do you like to smoke, Lance? You're not smoking right now. You're getting over a cold, but what do you like to smoke?
Man. I thought I came home from NorCal with just some allergies, and evidently is more than that. So still on the edibles trip right now, but you know what I've been smoking? Actually, I was smoking up there. You guys mentioned the sour D's coming back. That was a cool thing. I mean, a few of my grower friends are old heads, so they definitely like some of the landrace. But had one friend that had some phenomenal sour diesel. Had another one that was pushing some mints. So it was nice, a little nostalgic to see some of the stuff up there. What I've got personally, last year I grew. It was a first round from. Oh my gosh, from Coastal Seed Co. up in Santa Cruz, and it was a Zihuatanejo cross with Thai. And I'm not really big on the sativa dominant, but it's really weird how this thing grew out. Fat leaves through veg, and then when it cycled into flower, all of a sudden it was like these thin, kind of those double edge, haze leaves that you're used to seeing. That turned out really well, but I like the one the season before. I did a Bubba Mendo, so a Bubba Pre 98 cross with Mendo, and it was just that perfect balance, So I'm like you. I kind of hoard what I grow, what I like to grow. I like to hoard and consume. I do trade. I do share with friends. But those are definitely the ones that I've been keeping close to home so far.
Yeah, there's certain strains that are close to my heart, and especially the ones I get from Big Earl over here. There's ones that I know what I'm going to trade and share with friends and family. And there's ones that just go in my closet, that knowing that, like, for me and Mrs. Weedman.
I love it. That's the reserves.
Yeah. So Big Earl, have you heard of any of those strains that Lance was saying?
Oh yeah. Most of those have definitely been sour D's all over the place. Although I think there's probably a ton of speculation over, like, this is the real sour D, that's the real sour D. I don't know any of that stuff, honestly, but I know what I've smoked that people have said is sour D is fire. And you can tell that why it's called sour, and Thai is just, I think, would probably be way different depending on what seeds of Thai you popped. That's like a whole regional, like a whole region. But I've seen great stuff come out of Thai also. All that stuff, the Pre 98 Bubba too. because there's a big difference between that. I haven't grown either, but like Bubba and Bubba Kush and pre-98 Bubba, there's a big difference.
So, love me some Bubba Kush though.
Yeah, it was a crazy combination. I'm a big fan of landrace. I mean so my true favorite, the coveted, is Northern Lights, like typically NL number 5. And again, you know, we talked about what age we're definitely Gen Xers together. So, you know, for me, I liked you.
I knew I liked you for a reason, Lance. I knew I liked you for a reason. Once you mentioned Northern Lights, you're my friend for life.
Oh, dude, and I've got some pure, thank goodness for my buddy James Loud over at Loud Genetics. He's got some solid he's going to come through with that I'm going to grow next season. I'm outdoor full term, so I'm kind of at the mercy of Mother Nature. And only run originals. I typically don't do autos or femmes, but he finally found me the pure, so I'm looking forward to that. Because to your point, same with the Sour D and AK-47 and Blue Dream, all these really coveted cultivars from the late 90s, 2000s. It's a hit and miss. Someone might be giving you one thing, and it's really something else, you know? So
yeah.
First time I smoked AK-47 was 2001, and it made me confused. Now I'm from Chicago, okay? So you have to understand something. Well, we got good flower, good fire here, good tree. You know, you got it. And when I first had like good Northern Lights 99, 2000, 2001, I had some good blueberry. I had some good AK-47. Some people I knew were crossing strains, white rhino to blueberry, calling it rhino berry. So nice. I had but the Northern Lights and all of this stuff that we're just talking about right here, I mean, that stuff back then, man, was just something different that I didn't get to experience as much as you folks from the West Coast that were growing all of it. We got stuff shipped, or if you knew a grower that was growing down in Bloomington, Illinois, that was growing some stuff, you got some stuff shipped up to you. There was different ways you were getting it, but the stuff that you're talking about, man, they need to bring that all that shit back, like the real, like for real.
They're trying. It's a lot of us are trying to make that movement, man. You know, I mentioned, and I'm not to bag on anyone, but you know, the trendy triangle strains, the stuff that comes, and you've seen it. You've seen all the fruity dessert, the gelatos, the wedding cakes, the ice cream cakes, the RSs, the RS15, RS25, like. Those are kind of more the trendy, and I'm trying to push as much as I can my friends who do scale grow, because like we mentioned, you know, we're home growers. I'm not contributing to anyone except for myself and family and friends. But, you know, as ones that grow, like, man, it's not the demand. I'm like, create the demand. Like, bring back some of those legend cultivars. You know what? Mm-hmm. And I'll go way back, like Maui Wowie or Swahili or Acapulco Gold. You know,
Acapulco Gold. I never had Swahili. Tell me about that one. Tell me about
Swahili
that one.
Zingy, man. I mean, same with Durban poison. You know, it's indigenous to the South Saharan region. So it's something that really can grow with a lot of heat, a lot of strong heat. And so it just really had this zing to it. It wasn't quite as extreme as like a headband or super silver haze where you just kind of felt all the weight up here. It was still pretty balanced. But it's definitely one that, kind of like Acapulco, is just really earthy. Again, not so much of the fruity and the citrusy as much as it was kind of earthy. You know, the pinene and a little bit more of the myrcene, you know, more of those kind of sedative terpenes kind of on the lower end versus this high zesty stuff. So it's hard to find. And the guys who have it, there's a few that have the true genetics, but again, they're really tough to come by because they've been weaned out. You know, stuff that's crossed is all this Blue Diamond, Blue Dream, and you know, all these base race that have been kind of dominating the scene for the last 5-10 years, you know.
Let me ask you a question on we have a friend who's been on the show a couple of times, and all this person talks about is fucking skunk. Skunk. You know anybody got any skeeds? I'd love to hook him up with some true skunk.
Some real skunk one. Yeah. It's out there, man. I mean, it's just like getting back into the gases. I love how you guys were talking about that because, you know, gas never really went away. But it's interesting that the quench for those are finally coming back. You know, again, I think there's enough guys who are like, you know, the stuff that we're smoking today is not the same as the stuff that we were smoking in the 80s, 90s, and even the early 2000s. Because again, you know, working for Weed Maps, used to head up media over there, man. We had so many data points we had access to because we had at the time when I was there like 9 million unique visitors to our platform a month. So we're able to collect all this data. And I always pop quiz people like, hey, what do you think the 2 most selling cultivars were for the first 20 years of this century? And of course, that's when stuff was trending, right? All the, you know, oh, well, it's got to be cookies, or it's got to be cake, or it's got to be Skittles, or it's got to be Runts, you know, all this stuff that is trending in the teens. I'm like, no, still, it was Sour D and Blue Dream, and Blue Dream on the West Coast and Sour D on the East Coast, you know? So it's kind of interesting how our palates have shifted, but I hear more people going, man, I'm kind of tired of dessert. I want to get back to some of those originals.
You know? I want stank. So. I want stanky dank. That's what I want
loud.
Again.
It's okay to have it now. It's legal, man. It got suppressed. I mean, thanks to DARE and the war on drugs, a lot of that stuff got suppressed out here because if you could smell a crop from a mile away, you were done. You know, the wind catches it the right direction for the sheriff to pick up on it, and it's game over, man. The
I want head-turning weed from a mile away. Like that kind of stuff. I miss that. I miss that stuff where you were walking. And I still smoke weed everywhere I go, but I want that stuff that's like, you feel me on that. I want like the stanky, danky. So Earl, man, we already found out what he likes to grow, how long he's been growing, what's his favorite strain and whys. You got something to talk about, Earl. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah. What so we're on with Grove. I appreciate you, by the way. I was, like you said, my camera's been being funky, and so I didn't have a chance to shoot the shit with you too much before the show. But reached out to Grove. You guys were awesome. I was on another show and I got some Grove. I was like, man, I'm so fucking tired of burping. Is what I said. Like, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, twice a day, once a day, when twice a day when I can. I was like, it's fucking taking up hours of my day.
Yep.
They're like Grove bags, and I was like, "What the fuck?" That's literally what I said. I was like, "I don't. What is that? What kind of word is that? Is that a verb? Is that something you do to a bag?"
Yeah,
and
gotta Grove it.
around you guys, and so like literally the first night that I was in you guys' bags, I knew. I was like, "Fuck this! I don't get that like burp smell or whatever." But anyway, we're getting a little head on that. But what got you with Grove? You mentioned that you were with Weed Maps for a little bit. What got you moved over to Grove?
It was kind of interesting. I'd met the guy who was starting to kind of kick things off on the international front for this company while down in Costa Rica for the first cannabis expo down there. Over a year and a half, almost 2 years ago. Really nice guy, Julian. And I'd heard about the product because I actually work for another company that's the industry leader in humidity packs in this space. The name that won't be said because technically they're kind of an indirect competitor. But work for that company. So I had heard of this company for some time. Like I was like, wow, how can you do this? How can you create this perfect atmosphere to where you don't have to burp your bud? So connected with him and was kind of helping him, mentoring him a bit, especially expanding into international because that's my background. Like I said, Weed Maps with this other company, with Green Bros, a few others. And we hit it off. And then all of a sudden there's an opportunity to come along and head up their marketing and biz dev. And I love startup companies. I love younger companies. I like being a part of the foundation. And, that's what brought me on. But really, it was the culture too, man. I mean, the grower that started this all is actually our CEO. He doesn't grow anymore, but he's a caregiver. His older brother had cerebral palsy. So he was creating medicine for him. And he's like, there's got to be a better way to not just process flower post-harvest, but to preserve the quality and potency, especially for a medical patient. And I've always been medical first. I celebrated my 20th anniversary of being cancer-free last Thursday. So, so that's definitely something that anyone in the space that knows I'm an advocate, not an activist. I lead by education. I write monthly articles. It's all education. But I definitely believe in it. And I felt it was time in my career to go on with the company that put the community first. And it was always community before corporate and, in the craft and the culture before corporate. And that's really what this company is. So they sucked me in, man.
I like this guy.
Really sucked me in.
No, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. I think the bag speaks for itself, and that's brilliant. In all these years of burping, never was I like, I should find a better way to do this. I was just like, this is how it's done. This is how I'm doing it. I'm wasting hours of my day.
Tell him. Wait, hold on. Tell him what you told me. Was it we did our 1 year anniversary show. Tell him what you told me with all the jars that you lined up and then you forget some. Tell him what you told me last time, bro.
Happens all the time. No, I stay on top of my burping. When they're fresher, 2 times a day, I try to get to them, and it's really about the smell. If it's like if I'm not getting that real fresh weed smell, I'm saying, oh fuck, I waited too long to burp this bag. Like don't want it to be sitting in that not fresh smell. That was me personally. And so I'd leave these bags out, like you get 30 strain. I do a couple hunts, have a couple buds left over from these strains, and not, you get 30, 40 bags out. That takes you a half hour to an hour. And then by the time you get done with it, you go back to the beginning, or you have to go do something else. And all of a sudden, I walk back upstairs. I'm like, man, it looks like Chronic up here. And I'm like, oh shit, I've left these bags sitting out for 14 hours or whatever the hell happens.
It's crazy, man. When those terpenes are gone, they're gone, man. They're hydro. I don't mean to get all geek, but
no, we like nerdy.
Yeah,
we were nerds.
That's another thing. If people in this itch, like, wow, man, you know, for the last, I've been in the legal side for about a decade, and everyone's like, you always come back to terpenes. I'm like, because man, the cannabinoids are the engine, but the terpenes are the steering wheel, and that's what I educate people on is. Terpenes are hydrocarbons. Hydrocarbons are highly volatile. So even the temperature I'm in, my office is probably like low 70s right now. This is too hot for weed. That's why I keep my stuff in a cellar, right? Or in a cellar temperature. Yeah. But it's true, man. You leave it open and it's unfortunate because you're smelling the quality and potency of that flower go up into thin air. I mean, I actually wrote an article years ago that it was titled Mother Nature's a Thief. And that's exactly what I was talking about. I'm like, if you smell it, you're losing it, man. Like if it's out in your room, if it's out in your stash, like, yeah. So I definitely empathize. I've been there before too, leaving the jar tops off.
We were talking about that before the show. We were talking about Lance and I were talking about before. Hey, Earl, real quick, before you go any further, I think your internet is better. Just try your camera. I think it's working. I think your upload, I could see it. Yeah! There he is.
There we go.
I didn't put all this makeup on for nothing.
Nice.
It's
I did a little magic.
Enough people took a break from streaming in your neighborhood.
Exactly.
Oh man. So
yeah, I it's been a long time, I think, since there was something that was like made that big of an impact in my like day to day.
I appreciate it.
That's why immediately I was like, okay, what the fuck's going on with these bags? I like to try to read about.
Oh yeah, man. It's,
we just need to ask.
People are like, think it's voodoo, man. It's not. So I'm with you. First off, when I talk to friends, and like I said, I just came down off the hill, out of Humboldt, and there's still people like, dude, what's so special about the bag? Like, what is there a chemical? Here's one thing that I'm surprised because a few up there did this, but a lot of them did it up in Germany. They take the bag and they open it and they smell it and they're like, well, what is there? I'm like, you're not going to smell anything. This is FDA approved. There's no chemicals. There's no additives.
Ooh,
and so the best way I can
that?
Right?
How
the
did
material.
You get
it's the material.
Wow! Use, so. Applause.
Yep.
The federal government to fucking do something right. Are you fucking kidding me? We can't even get them to fucking reclassify this shit. You're getting grow bags fucking FDA approval.
Yeah, I mean, you can put your. I have a friend that he grow, and I'm a big companion planter. You might be the same way, Earl. So I'll run sometimes tomatoes. I'll do basil. I'll do mint, spearmint, etc. And literally, you can put your herbs in these too and keep them fresh if you want, as opposed to let them all dry out and lose their terps. So, but anyway, man. So I compare it to. I tell people, I'm like, if you ever go into a grocery store and you buy salad in a bag, right? It's all crispy, crunchy, green, not wilty, yellow. You've got all kinds of veggies in there. And everyone's like, yeah, that's flushed with nitro, right? Or flushed with argon. I'm like, nope, no noble gas. It's the packaging. So that packaging is designed for the physiology makeup of vegetables, which is a different humidity level, obviously, than flour, right? So we applied that science to this and designed it around the physiology of this plant. Like, we were talking about, Mr. Weedman and I were discussing before, like create that 58 to 62% perfect relative humidity. But because of technology, anti-static, antimicrobial, anything with a window, like the bag you just held up, has a UV protectant on the outside, which is super dope. Yeah, so it's really nice, man. And people are like, so what does it do? And I tell them, like, well, you put the flour in. First, you dry it, do your 60-60-14, or you probably have your religion. That's what we normally do out west here. We do 60%, 60 degrees, 14 days. And then you trim it as much as you want to, put it in the bag, and just seal it up and leave it for a minimum of 2 weeks and you're done. And so it's crazy because before fully switching to these, I did a side-by-side, which you probably did too. And I had happened to do that the same time I caught up with some Italians. I was over at Spanibus.
Hey, relax about the Italians over here.
Oh my gosh, the Italians know what's up. These guys taught me.
Forget about it. These grow bags, forget about it.
Oh yeah, these guys are like, what are you saying I can do? But these Italians were telling me like, no, you have to age the bud. And I'm like, what are you talking about aging? Like, it has terpenes. It's like a fine wine. I'm like, it's not really. We don't like comparing with, but okay. And so I did that. I did that a few years ago. I did 2-week dry, 2-week cure, and then 2-month aging. And then, funny enough, we did a study, third-party lab, Vita Labs, which is out of Santa Barbara, like 45-hour away from me. We did a study, jars versus our bags. And we gave jars an upper hand. We didn't have them burp it, so it didn't change the environment. But our bags, they found that obviously it surpassed glass within a week. And then it hit that ideal level of both cannabinoid and terpene percentages within 2 weeks. But then they kept it in for 8 weeks. And it hit its maximum potency at 8 weeks. So I'm like, wow, the Italians are on, which is crazy because, right, that's wives' tales, that's old school. What do they know? Yeah. It really works, man. So I keep my stuff in for a few months, but you can store it in the bag too. So you seal it and leave it and don't touch it until you want to consume it or break it down into smaller portions or whatever.
Hey, forget about it. Hey.
There you go.
So we'll get into the flower a little bit. What's happening to that flower at that time then? Like as the plant's 14 days dry, you did your 60-60 for 2 weeks. What's happening there that's getting us, that smell and that difference, that terpene degradation?
And all it's that. Really cool. So what happens with biomass, and this is in general, when plants are living, they're taking in the CO2, putting off oxygen. That's why we love them, want them all around us. When plants die, when they're taken from their life force, something interesting happens. And it's not just obviously in the plant kingdom. It happens with animals and creatures as well. But they try to regenerate. They go into this highly defensive mode where they're trying to recoup. So they actually off-gas CO2 in order to try to regenerate. So what happens is when you put it in that contained space, you have the perfect moisture content. We say between 10 and 12% moisture content if you're a hay meter guy or a wood meter guy. Or if you want to put it in a space to test the ambient relative humidity, mid-50s to low 60s, that kind of RH. But you put it in, so that CO2 starts off-gassing. It pushes the oxygen out of the environment. It gets it down to an average about 2% oxygen. So you still allow like the CBN and CBG, like some of those minor cannabinoids to mature.
The mother. Tell your children not to walk my way. Sorry, I geeked out again.
So, you get it, man. And so the CO2 is what's keeping the flower from oxygenating or oxidizing, right? So it's not turning brown. It's not. And then you have that perfect amount of moisture content to allow the flower to continue to mature. So that's what's happening. It's literally creating that perfect environment. So I went into one operation indoor. Total respect for the indoor guys because it's a whole different realm than what I'm used to. And they had 1,142 grams in one of our 1 pound bags. And I'm like, and they had some really dense. I mean, they're decent size. I mean, they're like, I would say like B's on an outdoor. So these are definitely AA plus on an indoor. And they're really dense buds. And I'm like, first off, props to you guys for fitting 2 pounds of flower in a 1 pound bag. Like that's pretty dope. Yeah. But you're a little too overfilled. You have to keep some headspace for that curing to happen. Okay. So I said, you guys can probably run about 900 grams. I mean, so it's still, you're almost, double, like 900 grams, but keep at least a quarter of the bag at the top open, as far as that open space when you seal it. And don't compress it down. A lot of guys like don't squeeze the air out of it. It pushes itself out. If you do, it'll actually fluff up. You'll notice that the bag will expand a little bit because of the CO2 off-gassing. So it's kind of cool. But it's some straight magic, man. And like you said, it gives them their time back. I mean, Weedman and I were talking. We're not pushing kilos on kilos, pounds on pounds, but
not anymore.
Sorry, not anymore. If this was around when I was younger,
if this is the '90s, then you'd really know who the fuck Weedman was.
Hey, then you'd know what's up, man. But yeah, if you're pushing weight, it saves you time, but it also saves you money because again, you're not just losing the terps when you're letting them off gas like that. You're also losing weight. You're losing moisture. Moisture equals weight. And it might not in a couple, grams or a couple ounces, but when you're dealing with pounds and kilos, that adds up, man. You need to save all that quality and potency, as well as that weight.
The weight is what matters if you're selling.
Yep. Yeah.
Dude, I don't hustle like that either, but my biggest thing is I deal with so many varieties.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going through like most of my bags are like under an ounce. but it's still like something where I'm like, I want this to be good in a month when I want to come back and smoke it every now and again or whatever. Or it's for a particular patient where it's like, I'm not going to yield this again. I need to hold this for them.
So I got a question, Earl. Sorry to interrupt. So some of my older strains that might be like old, like I keep them for a while. Can I throw them, take them out of the jar and put them in the bag? Will that like give them a little pep and its step again?
It technically can, yeah. If you're just in a straight jar and you just have it sealed in. So this is, again, we'll go in geek talk. This is actually a passive atmospheric modifier, not an active atmospheric modifier. So this is passive. So it'll passively, if it's a little too low in relative humidity, it'll passively bring some into the environment. If it's a little too high, it'll passively push it out. Now, if you're an extreme one way or the other, if it's super dry bud, you're going to need something to get yourselves back up. If it's way too wet, same thing. You're gonna have microbial, and that's just some people are like, oh, I put it in the bag, and it's like, did you properly dry it? Oh no, I thought you just put it in the bag. It's like, no, that's why it popped off, man. Like you can't. It's like you're putting a wet towel and sealing it in a bucket. You know what it's gonna smell like. We've all been there, right? So it's like, you can't have the extremes. You need a desiccant pack if it's up here. You obviously need some way a humidity pack or something to bring it back up if it's too low. But also keep in mind, if it's gotten that far, it's probably too far, right? I was on a podcast with Adam Dunn, and he's like, yeah, if you have to add something like that, you probably fucked up already. I'm like, kind of a candid way to put it, but it's true. If your stuff's too dry, you either got too dry during the dry process or you allowed it to get too dry during your traditional cure process. If it's too wet, you just try to rush it, get out the door like, most underground markets still do, let alone barely curing it. So, So put it in the bag.
Yeah, that's one thing I was told very fast. Like somebody found out the hard way. They're like, just make sure you dry it.
Yeah,
it's like, put it in there hot way.
There's sterile bags. People are like, oh, there's mold in the bag. It's like there's not. Good in, good out, man.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah. So Big Earl and I are gonna let you hear how we cure.
Sweet.
And like kind of like the do's, and then we want to hear some do's and don'ts kind of afterwards, like what can we improve on and where can we go better. So Big Earl, tell them how you, I'm basic, man, so it's going to be like 2 seconds, but Big Earl, tell them how you cure.
Well, before the Grove bags, I have you've seen, I'm sure, the dry tents. They're like little 3x3 tents, and you pull the air out the top, and they have the not filter, but like the blackout air filtration in the bottom. Fucking beautiful. Or it worked great for me because like I have a couple little fans in there, and I can put it in my flower room and control my flower room doesn't get above fucking mid 70s. So it's a little warm, but
tolerable.
It's a little warm, but it's like compared to like putting it anywhere, it just works for me. Like I can use the same dehumidifier and AC and shit. So I get my 14 days. I cut down as close to that as possible, but sometimes, it's a month in there. Things don't seem to degrade too bad in those extra 14 days hanging there. They're not exposed to light or anything, usually really cold.
And are you whole plant hanging or stem hanging? Just curious.
Whole plant,
cool.
Yeah.
Sweet. Okay, dope.
So, and I have it set up to where my initial airflow dehu fan is hitting them.
Oh, really?
Because my room I keep at 60%, and I assume that in the tent it's going to be higher because my plants are going to be, especially when I first put it in there. So they come out really great. But when I'm done with that, I trim as fast as possible. I get it into the turkey bags. Turkey bags I keep dark in 5-gallon buckets, and I burp them daily. Usually I try to do twice a day for a couple days at least. Pretty much for as much as I can. But at least once a day, at least every 24 hours. That's like my threshold. But that's it. I make sure when I burp that I burp in a very clean area. I don't want to burp like I have an area in my basement that like I do laundry. I don't like burping over there because I was feeling like I got some sense from that. I don't like burping like in the corner where I do a lot of my like trimming and my tumblers and stuff. Just weird stuff like that. But that's basically what I do until it's gone.
Yeah, and that's a common, like you see it out here still is I had a moment laughing. We were downtown Eureka eating dinner and see this truck go by just loaded with HDX totes, but the black and yellow, sorry, that's a lot of people. The black and yellow totes, right? Which is the same methodology as you, right? Instead of 5-gallon bucket, they're just doing a 27 gallon container. But they're doing turkey bags on turkey bags, stacking them all in. And what you're doing is you're creating microclimates within a microclimate. So that's the thing that's a challenge with doing the traditional methodology. Again, no matter if you do it in a bag, you're doing it in a jar, I went into, I won't say which one, but one of the largest operations happens to be minutes away from me. And I even saw that. I mean, these guys, it's a few thousand pounds a month. And their vault, they literally had, to your point, AC on one side, dehumid on the other. The sun would rise on one side, would set on the other. So they had all these, and then all these turkey bags and all these totes. And I'm like, you guys have so many climates in here. If you went and got a couple of Govies and just sporadically put them on one side or the other, I bet you'd be extremes of 10% in both RH and in ambient temp, right? So nothing wrong with that. Again, it's a little bit closer to the old methodology. So stoked to hear that you went into the bags. And if you did happen to be in the traditional market and had buyers that are coming along, right? So wholesalers, resellers, distributors, some people do like that turkey bag format, right? Because what do we used to do? Like when they got popular back in the day, guys could flip them over and they could see if you're keefing out or if you had too much shake or if you had fake weight, right? So they could really see the quality in their mind, see the quality top to bottom, open it up, smell it. We actually have turkey bags. So turkeys are designed for turkeys, terpenes designed for terpenes and cannabinoids. So if there's people that still want that format, it's kind of cool because this is the modern format, but some people just want what they know and their buyers want what they know. So I do tell people if they're going to go with that traditional model of totes or 5-gallon buckets or whatever, then at least using the turkey bags so it does contain that right amount of moisture, because you just have too much flux that's passing through that material that's in a traditional turkey bag for moisture and for oxygen. So but you use the bags now, so I don't know if I give you any recommendations. You know what's up.
Well, no, I'm glad to hear that because I got on your website a few days ago because I bought a bunch of your bags and I have more strains waiting in turkey bags. I was like, shit, because I keep trimming up. I got this big ass GG4 Stanky Haze hunt that I did.
It was GG4.
And I was like, I saw those turkey bags. And they were made for like, if I remember, they were made for like 5-gallon buckets. They were like normal.
Yeah, you have 1 to 2 pound and then like a 5 to 10, a bigger one. Yeah.
And I was like, even just to have one that size was super cool. Just like I have so many 5-gallon buckets. That's what I use.
Yeah, we'll send some samples out to you, man. I mean, we should probably just get a discount code for you guys, to be honest, or for you. For your viewers.
Just the grow hour. Yeah. Hell yeah.
I hunted one down. I hunted one down. I can't remember which one I used, but I hunted one down.
Okay, cool.
I got a little bit off. But yeah, dude, I thought when I saw them, I was like, I think that's what that's for. Like, I'm pretty sure. So I ordered those with some other shit just because they were cool. A lot of graphic ones. They were like special ones. I almost ordered a couple cool.
I got one right here.
They were done by
Look,
oh my god, dude!
That one.
That's Mossy Giant. Yeah,
I love this
that's part of the Mossy Giant series. So you guys, this is a fun tangent. So Peter, he's a phenomenal artist. I was just out at his art installation at his studio out in Holland about August, was it? Yeah, August. And we're doing a series with them. So actually that one is the second in the series, and then this one's the third. And we do one every season. So that was summer. This is fall. And then you guys wait until you see the winter one. We'll send some out to you. But these are total limited edition. We produced 2,000. And 1,000 go to the artist. 1,000 stay with us. So half of every bag sold goes to the artist. So we support artists that support the community. So he's one. Yeah. And then we've got Cannabis Scapes is another, big activist on the West Coast. We've done a few collab bags with him to support his causes as well. So yeah, we're all about the custom. So stoked to see you guys like that.
Oh man, when I opened up the box and I saw those, I'm like, these are awesome. I don't know if I ever want to use them. I want to like put them in a nice frame because they're so dope.
Sneaker pimps. That's it. We have guys that they order like twice of everything. Like we did. Well, you can only get this through James Abe. I talked to you guys about, which huge fan of James and his genetics, but we did this bag for him, and same thing. Like everyone's like, "Oh my god, it's freaking sick!" And I'm like, well,
"I got a couple of those. I got a couple of those too."
Did you get those?
Oh yeah, I got a couple of those. I appreciate it. So, let me tell you how I'm just newbie-ish grower. Like, been doing it for years in the traditional market, but didn't actually do the grow. But worked with some guys that did the grow, and then started to grow. I don't know once it went recreational here in Illinois. We were able to start growing in 2020. So like I had my card in 2018 and only med can grow here. Yeah. I had that tent ready to go, up, running, first one, lights were up, ready. So a lot of the first, this is before I met Big Earl too. And I had everything ready to go and just like, was not really sure. Everything I was just reading off the internet, watching YouTube videos, whatever I can get my hands on to read. You read the Bible and all that stuff too. So you're just like trying to do whatever you can. So made a lot of mistakes that first grow. But the curing and drying part was the easy part because I was like, you just trim everything up. I hang it upside down from fucking hangers in my tent. Made sure the humidity was right. Made sure everything was at the temperature you wanted to be at. Threw some air. And you hung it upside down for 15, 18 days. You checked it, made sure it wasn't too dry, right? And then you trimmed it all up and you put in mason jars with a couple of the humidity packs. And then you burp them every day for the first 2 weeks. And then the next 2 weeks after that, you burp them every 72 hours. And then going into the 5th and 6th week, you burped them maybe once every 4 or 5 days. And then you just made sure the humidity was always good. And I have a great little cellar that it stays like 60 degrees, 63 degrees all year round. Highest I've ever seen it get is 68 because it was hot outside.
Yeah.
You know, humidity in there is always like 55 to 58, 62, the highest I've ever seen in my cellar.
Oh,
so
geez.
it's like perfect.
Yes,
Just to keep. Yeah. Big Girl, you seen the closet where I store all the weed?
Yeah, no, that's great that it keeps that. I had to be like very creative to find a solution to be able to keep something even close to that.
So I mean, my cellar is great because it's all brick and it like there's no drywall or nothing in there, so it just stays nice, you know.
Sick.
Yeah, so just to cure, it's like everything stays for a while. So, but now I'm even more excited because I can keep those in there too, and just it's going to be really nice.
Just heat so when you're done. And sorry, I didn't bring miner downstairs, but I should have brought it up and shown you guys. I saw another on like a growers podcast on a Friday one time, and this guy goes, "Oh, let's share each other, what we did," because we were all part of this growers group that ran these F1s for this grow up north, and we were all over the state. He goes and get his Yeti cooler, and you can hear it juggling and everything, all the jars and all. He's like lugging it up, almost drops it. I'm like, "Here, let me get mine," and I literally bring like my one container with all my bags in it, and they're like, "That's it." And I'm like, "Dude, it doesn't weigh a lot when you don't have all the glass."
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's amazing. I mean I use our 8 decades jars, the mirror and glass jars that we use.
Those
it's
sick.
Yeah, I mean they're ultravite. I mean Earl has them too. So I mean these things are dope and smell proof. But I mean you got to use a lot of these.
Yeah.
How much I mean, you're
and
growing.
to travel with them. I hate to say, man, but it's like, remember when you're, what was it, like home economics or whatever in high school, you had to take care of the egg? That's what I feel like when I'm traveling with glass, man. I'm like, oh my gosh, am I going to drop it? Am I going to hurt it?
This is great. These little ones are great little travel bags, man. These things are fucking sweet where you can just
those
travel with
favorite,
these.
Man.
Yeah,
and they're just easy pinch bags. I kind of took the format, although we originally did this format, I think, for cookies, but this format, because like you guys know, as opposed to the vertical, most bags are set up like this, right? Because they want to do what's easiest for the retailer. But it's not easiest for the consumer. You have to dump out all the buds to pick the one you want to pinch. So with this one, literally, because you have to gusset, you just open it and pinch out a bud and not have to dump it all out, put it back in, dump it all out, put it back in. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
what size is that one on the website? Is that the eighth?
This is actually cool. This is 7 gram. This is perfect.
Nice.
So this is you can fit an eighth, but yeah, eighth, quarter. I mean, honestly, if you're doing indoor, running dense indoor, I know guys that run 10 grams in these, no problem. So totally works. But
sweet.
Yeah, definitely. And then you got the ounce. We did a limited one for a CannaFest too this year.
Oh, nice
for the people up on the hill. So yeah, it's a nice ounce bag.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's dope. So what's I mean, the only thing we need to improve on now is just using the bags.
I'd say that. Well, I mean, you made post-harvest sound so simple, man, because I tell people, like, growing's half the battle. Everyone puts so much emphasis on the grow because, dude, full-term outdoor, nobody gets it more than me. Like, months, I mean, literally months of taking care of these plants outdoors, right, in the ground. But so many guys would then rush it at the end. And it's like, it's almost like courtship, right? Let's go out, let's first date, second date, and then just like, take your time. The more time and energy you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it, right? So it's the same with your plant. I'm glad that you you're like, you made it sound simple, but you're right. Like, you cut it, you buck it, you hang it, you trim it, you cure it, you store it. Like,
and then you fucking smoke it, baby.
And then you smoke it. But so many people are like, dude, I don't have time for that. It's like, well, you had 8, 10, 12, 15, 20, 30 weeks, whatever, to grow your bud. Yeah. And then now you're not going to spend an extra few weeks to make sure that it's in its perfect state before consuming. Yeah, because
like, come on, you're eventually going to smoke it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's the finishing. That's where you do all this work. You put your 90, 120 days in to get to the point where you get to fucking enjoy what you did. And I know some of the stuff people are, some of we're talking about cultivators and they, growers, big professional growers that use your bags. But for the home grower, for somebody like myself and a caregiver like Earl, who smokes his own weed too.
Yeah.
You know, this is work. Like you just said, it takes a while. You're watching your babies every day, and you don't want to leave those babies every day. And we all travel for work. I get it. And you got stuff, and you got to have someone to watch it. You take care of these. These are your babies. Exactly. And for the finished touch as a home grower for your medicine, you want to make sure you have the best smokable weed possible. I'm not saying I grow the best weed. I'm the best grower. I want good smokable weed that's going to have good terps, good cannabinoid ratio, and maybe get some other cannabinoids that I really like that in weed that you can only get in edibles, you know? So, you know, I want terps, I want flavor, I want smell, I want not only just cannabinoids, not only just terpenes, I want flavonoids and I want esters. I want the whole enchilada.
That's the whole plant health. That's as a medical advocate, and Earl will agree, like it's whole plant health. That's why some states, Florida, Minnesota, you know, we're only concentrates. Well, you're handicapping the medical patient because first off, the greatest uptake, which is 40%, is by inhalation, by smoking it, not by. And I'm a huge edible. Don't get me wrong. Make my own can of butter. Make my own can of oil. When you have enough flour, you get creative. Mm-hmm. But really, if you want the whole plant experience in the full proper spectrum, then to your point, you need the whole plant, and you need all those compounds that come with it. You know, so I'm with you, man. And that's keeping it fresh. That is a big factor. If it doesn't have, you guys know, if you don't flush a plant right, tastes tingy. The burn is horrible. Everyone talks about, forget the ash. I don't care what the smoke looks like. I care about how it feels. And you know, when you don't flush a plant right, what it tastes like, what it feels like. But it's the same thing with, to your point, if you don't have the right moisture, if it got too oxygenate, like those things make it a horrible smoke as well. And obviously compromises the quality and potency of the plant.
Yeah, it runs hot. So if you fuck it up, it runs hot and you burn your lungs, you know? Yeah. So it's like a very hot ash, like, people used to probably smoke cigarettes without a filter on it. If it's dried out shit, you're fucking burning your lungs, you know? Yep. So half of that fucking brick reed I used to suffer through back in the early 90s and late 80s. Yeah. So let's go on to Grove. And I know you answered a lot of this, but tell us, you're somebody. I didn't mention like what you do for Grove. So once you tell us a little bit about your experience, like what do you do for Grove? And then tell us like a history of the Grove bags too.
I always forget to mention that too, because I always get so into the community and the plant and the process.
Yeah, right? You get excited.
Yeah, man. So, you know, we've talked about this before. Grew up in NorCal, so definitely grew up around, you know, the hippies, although it wasn't as cool in the 80s, right? They kind of phased out and moved to Mendocino and Santa Cruz and Berkeley, but definitely grew up around it with the patchouli oil, 11-grain bread, and kombuchas. But, you know, so it was always kind of the norm for me. You know, I went into the mainstream, if you will, although flour was a big part of my success. Even going off to school, I saved up for it with selling flour when I was a kid. Then got into the legal market. Is weird because I cut my teeth in the legal market out in Colorado. So when Colorado came online on January 2014, I was there. Was working for The Cannabist, which was a news outlet with Ricardo Baca, who's also in the industry. And then, from there, Weed Maps, and kind of just got into this trend of starting up and being a part of the startup or the scale up process of these companies. And really fortunate to do what I love. Like I said, I write about it on a monthly with MG Magazine, talks about all the countries I've gone to. I tell people, I'm like, I just did my 195th cannabis trade show event or expo this last weekend. And everyone's like, you keep track? I'm like, well, I have OCD. So there's that. But it is interesting because I tell people, I'm like, man, I would have never toured the coast of Australia, would have never gone to a rooftop in Tel Aviv, Israel, would have never been to Santiago, Chile, or Bangkok, Thailand. Like, there's places this plan has taken me, and I'm very fortunate because of, you know, the people that I represent, the companies I work for. But Grove Bag's the same thing. Like I said, you know, it started out just like myself, who came from the community. The person who founded it, Jack Grover, phenomenal guy. He comes from the community. He's a caregiver like you, Earl, and obviously taking care of his brother. So it's a little bit closer to home for him. That's why they came up with the technology. Several of us in the company grow. Those that don't grow have been in the space for several years or have consumed for several years. Most are out of the green closet. I mean, I came out of the green closet. I had friends that were, you know, oh, Andy, and I'm like, I don't care what people think. Like, oh, but you can't go back to mainstream. I'm like, I wouldn't work for anyone that would use this against me as far as being in this space or being a part of this community. So I became fully committed several years ago. But Grove Bag's just phenomenal business. Again, we love supporting, you know, guys like you, love supporting grow groups and forums and chat rooms. competitions, contests. Just talking to the head of Farmers Cup this morning. We sponsor the Grow Off every year, which is a nice kind of national competition. We've got an event that a competition we're sponsoring over in Amsterdam right now. It's going on for 6 months with the top 24 coffee shops. We do Spanibus every year. I mean, we really try to be a part of the community, and not just locally, but nationally and internationally as well. So it's truly a great company. We're small, like we're a few dozen employees. We're not huge. We're privately owned. We're not sellouts. Nothing against those publicly traded companies, but that's not us. Yeah, made in the USA. Not only were we designed and obviously invented here, but all of our raw goods, all of our raw product is sourced in the U.S., is manufactured in the U.S., right? Just a state over from you, Mr. Weedman. And so we're humbled and we're thankful. And I was asked to speak when at CannaFest because we sponsored that as well, and they had a competition. Like, we're going to have the sponsors come up and speak for 15 minutes. And I'm not about an infomercial. Like you guys know, I grow, I consume, I'm a big fan of it. And so I came up and I'm like, you guys, we're a supporting actor. You as growers, you're the lead actors. We're here to support you. So I'm not going to go on and tell you all about myself and my company. We're here to make your job easier, to make your life easier, and to try to lower as many hurdles as possible for you to get the most you can per pound. And everyone was applauding and clapping because that's what they should hear. And that's the companies that support them should have that position, because there's too many Chads. There's too many corporate bigwigs, too many suits over roots that try to come in and, we'll teach these stoners a thing or two. No, you won't. You'll go on back to Wall Street or wherever you came from and go try to get a quick buck off something else. We don't want you, so we share that that's our approach towards, the community and the plant. So
I love it.
That's my rant.
I love it.
Yeah. You guys fit that niche so well too, because it's like, and in all honesty, those guys probably wouldn't be interested in your product a ton, because when you grow that kind of weed, you don't have the respect for the cure like other people do. So they're looking at a 15-cent turkey bag like, oh, I only have to spend 15 cents on this.
I was you nailed it, Earl. I was in that same very big operation, and we were talking about back end, and they want us to do an audit, which we did. We audited myself and another. So again, full disclosure, outdoor, but I had one of my indoor guys with me. So we did an audit to streamline and help show them efficiencies. We're like, hey, we'll try to help you. And of course, the other guy was from the sales side. I'm not. So he was like, hey, maybe we can talk about your CPG or your consumer packaging goods. And I'm like, oh no, I don't think you could beat China. It's like first off, apples and pineapples. Like, it's not.
I've never heard apples and pineapples before. That's
man, pretty good. I've been using that one for years. It's like, because everyone, it sounds similar, not at all the same, right? And so it's the same thing, man. You're right, because these guys, they think they can scale it up like soybeans and corn. You cannot scale up on a linear cannabis. It's an X factor on how much energy, effort, time, and money it takes to have that same quality and potency that all of us produce, even being humble, Weedman. Like, you compare that, I mean, the best you can get is mids when you're pushing acres and million square foot operations. You just don't have enough people or enough time to be able to maintain that quality. So you're right. It's almost like they give up before they even try to win, because they don't want to go, well, we're a little on the short end of the stick here. Let's try to make up for it over here. Nope. Let's just keep whatever the bottom line, whatever the net margin is. Let's just go for that.
It's all about the margins. It's all about the margins, Lance. Yeah. The whole industry.
You see it happen in Canada, man. Look at Canada. 70% of the flower.
3.5 billion grams they wasted last year. And I said to myself, you know how much water they had to use to make that weed? You know how much waste? Not only just the plant that was wasted, everything else they used that was wasted. 3.5, not like millions or not 100,000, but billions
of grams. And now you know why the market, and that's why I love doing these international trips, just out there. And the tour this year is Germany, Holland, and England. I was in Holland, and my buddies are like, Lance, we've been friends with California forever. You can find California weed, not just strains, but California flower on the menus, which you can. You can find California, Spain, and local, right? And he's like, we're getting Canadian weed. And he's like, I don't mean just packs smuggled in like it is from your home state. They're like, this is actually stuff that's coming in on a container, passing through what probably is a legal country and getting filtered out into the black market. So they're even talking about how Canada is trying to push their weight and make up for it, because they're having to answer to the investors, And again, you just can't whoever thought Canadian? I love Canadians. I love all Commonwealth countries. You know, they're all very nice people from there to Australia, etc. But man, were they known for growing weed? Besides the BC boys, I don't really know that Canada was necessarily known.
BC. Well, see, that's the whole thing. Back
all
when I was younger, when you got weed from BC, you were like happy, you know. And that's all I knew. That's the only people I had heard that grew cannabis was in BC.
It's because it's outdoor, because it's not Mississauga or freaking New Brunswick, you know, or Quebec. Like, it's actually a place where you can grow and you can get at least one full run outdoor, and it's going to be absolute fire because of the soil they have, you know, and the UV they get from the sun. But we digress. But I mean, that's to your point. They aren't necessarily known for it. So yeah, man, it's definitely, it's not just about the, you know, the most bang for the buck. You gotta be smart about your investment. So
oh yeah, that's proven a lot out there. I like to tell people, like, when explaining the plant, I've not been in that position a ton of times, but when I have, say it's all about potential. Your plant has 100% potential. That's your genetic. From the time it's consumed, you can lose that 100%.
Yep.
You fuck this up. You water a little late. Guess what? You're at 99% potential. Yep. You do this, you do that. You trim up. You do this late. You do this wrong for this cultivar. 98%, 97%. It's like, we're just trying to get to in the 90s. We're trying to get an A. That's
I'm just trying to get a B plus.
It's like
that works too
for me. Sometimes you're not even, your 100% potential isn't even really there because you're not starting with the genetics. Yep. But if there's not really getting it back, you know, like you might be able to catch up with some CO2 or some UV or using something that other people don't typically use, but fulvic acid or something, or Grove bags, you know, all those billions of grams of Canada, not to, you know, fluff Grove anymore than we've been doing, but it's like, if one of those facilities would have used a product like Grove bag, they would be sitting on a better product than everyone else.
Yeah.
Because everyone else is sitting in the turkey bag, you know? And so it's like,
exactly.
I don't know.
No, you're right, man. I bought a domain. Actually, it's one of my brands from personal, Seed to Social, back with that whole played out term, seed to sale. I'm like, that's what makes you two suit, is all you care about is getting it to the front line. If you don't care about how the consumer, because you nailed it, man, genotype, phenotype, chemotype. So you start out with the genetics. What's the outside influences? Your pheno. Chemo is the experiential, right? So everyone kept talking about your geno and your pheno, but no one was talking about the chemo. No one was talking about, like, what was the experience? How is your bud really considered fire? Is it considered mids, or is it just popcorn in a bag that you can get $80 an ounce for? So you're right. That conversation never really got that far. And that's part of what I would say is the domestic cannabis 2.0. Like, people understanding quality, like Guinness versus a Diet Coors or whatever, or even looking at it as, because we all know the difference, right? But even looking at it as, you know, if you're looking into quality, you know, stop looking at potency, man. Because THC, you don't buy a car because it's got 600 horsepower and then it's got drum brakes all around, or it's got the aerodynamics of a chuck wagon. Like, literally, man, look at the whole package. Like, you buy everything else based on the whole package. Why would you not do that with your flower? Like, why do you stop short and go, oh, THC, 40% is loud. Okay, 40% of the total absolute biomass of that plant is one molecule called THC or Delta-9. Seriously? Like, are you sure about that? Are you sure about that?
Does that mean they can only grow on a 60% plant matter, tops? Yeah. Zero dirt, zero other cannabinoids.
Exactly. Man.
That's how I always look at it. Like, where's that growing from?
Yeah.
60% of the plants growing 40. Like, that's.
No, we lost him again, or we lost you. So I'm going to move on to the next question. What do Grove bags do that traditional bags don't?
Excellent question. So depending on which traditional bag, so the turkey bag, like we discussed, that's definitely designed to allow that oxygen and that moisture to flow in and out. Obviously, it keeps a certain amount retained in order to cook the turkey, but it's just not designed for cannabis. It's just not. Like, stop with the turkey bags, you guys. It's like taking your clothes down to the river and slapping them against a rock instead of using a washing machine. Like, why? Like Earl said, if there's this technology out here, why are you? None of us are too old. We're not like, I can't figure out an iPhone. We aren't 80 years old. Like, we can learn. That's with the turkey bags. With traditional, like the consumer bags, Mylars are for mids. You guys, like, Mylar was designed for food. And food has advantages because they do have additives in it that help preserve it. So when they put the food in this bag, all that a Mylar, if this were a Mylar bag, all that Mylar bag is doing is keeping it in that exact state based on what you put in. It doesn't create any sort of passive atmosphere. If you put it in extra moist because you want to stay fresh, which obviously water is another thing that helps keep food fresh, that's fine. But seriously, Mylars, if you care about your bud, Mylar is not doing any favors for you. So that's what I'd say about the two most common bags.
Do you think cultivators should switch their from Mylar bags? A lot of them are moving away from the plastic, and they're moving, plastic little containers. You think they should move to Grove bags because it'll keep the humidity, keep the bud fresher? Especially like sometimes that shit might sit on a shelf for like a year.
Yeah, which we guarantee. I mean, a year is nothing for. We have bags that we're testing with flower for 3 years.
Oh, so they can buy like little cool bags like this with their logos on it and shit. Okay.
Yeah, we do custom one-off designs like for our friends at Arc Farms, Calipo. Like, we did the branding for them. So yeah, we definitely do custom bags. If they care about it, then definitely looking into flexo or soft-sided packaging versus hard-sided. To your point, NorCal is all about the jars. And I'm like, okay, you create this great flower. You're getting the glass and you're getting the lid from offshore. You don't know what quality it's in. You don't even know if it's safe. And then the fact that how much weight is that? We did an audit where what's the carbon footprint to create, and again, this is the boofy, not the quality stuff. Like you have a quality jar. Like I have quality jars like that. I have sea vaults that I even use for some of my stuff because I know I can upcycle it and reuse it just like yours. But we're talking about the throwaway jars. Like to your point, the leak down and the amount of oxygen that can escape from that environment is horrible. The actual effort that it takes and energy it takes to produce that jar and produce that lid, and then also to recycle that jar and recycle that lid. And that's another thing we're having to teach a lot of people is these can be upcycled. Like these actually, this zipper, you can open and close 100 times. You don't have to heat seal it. You can open it, keep it as your stash. I keep ones that I travel with and use time and time again. So you definitely can reuse these and upcycle them. That's what we encourage. But think about how much money you're saving in transport. How much does it cost for 1,000 pounds in jars versus 1,000 pounds in flexo or soft side packaging to transport logistically? So those things kind of add up. Again, when you're commercial and you're scaling, you want to look at the big picture and not just, oh, this cost me X, this cost me Y. Net it out. See what the difference is, So,
Big Earl, you back? Can we hear you? There we go. All right, you're back. Yeah, we can hear you now.
For me, one of the first things I did was tell everybody who's associated with my cannabis about it, because it's like, I want them. I've told everybody about burp, and I know they don't. It's not nothing against them. I just, my patients, I know that they're not burping their bags every day, unless they're smoking every day,
Yeah, exactly.
And it definitely, like, the upscale makes a ton of sense to me there too, because it's like I want them all to have it. I want to give them some product and say, just keep this, so that when you get your meds next month, you can have it, but yeah, yeah. Sorry, I froze there for a second, but
yeah,
that's all right. That happens.
Everyone's streaming Jeopardy over there right now or something.
I don't know what's going on over here.
It's all right. We got you. So I'll ask the next question. Why do bags dry out? Even, and this is Earl's question. This is a good one because we were talking about it before the show. So why do bags dry out even when burped in a higher humidity climate?
Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, if you're in a higher humidity, technically you are introducing that outside atmosphere to that space. So normally it shouldn't. But again, it does depend on what bag. So likely this is going back to turkey bags. Turkey bags, just the leak down is there. It just allows too much oxygen to escape the environment. So even if you are in a high humidity space, you're still having that humidity within that controlled environment wick out of that atmosphere. So you're having that essentially that moisture. The flower's sweating. That's what happens. We're sweating it when we're drying it, but it's still in a slower pace sweating when you're curing it. So the problem with the turkey bag is there really isn't a vapor barrier there to keep it from letting all the moisture out. And it's not helping, obviously, to burp it then, because you're just expediting the escape of not, again, just the moisture, but the terpenes at that point too.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's definitely turkey bags. But I just noticed, like, it'll be raining outside, or it'll be like spring. I'll be like, man, why do I have to have a humidity pack in this?
Yeah.
When it's 95%, 95% humidity around my house, basically, because it's been raining for however long.
And we can go a little geek on that, man. So a good point there. So there's two different variables, right? So we talked about moisture content versus relative humidity. So moisture content is bound water within a given space. So the moisture content is, think of buds like a sponge, and we can, right? Because you guys know if it's fresh and sticky icky, what do? Like we see it, we smell it, we squeeze it, then we smoke it. Right? I'm just being old school.
I stick mine against the wall, and if it stays there for a couple days, I know it's sticky, icky, dicky.
So that still exists. Oh my gosh, man! That was something I was smoking. What was it? I was just talking to my buddy. It was NF1 Northern Lights crossed with Chem Dog. This stuff was that kind of sticky. That's what I was having up on the hill. So you look at it as a sponge. So what you're talking about, Earl, is you're talking about the relative humidity. So that's just your ambient, right? That's the moisture in the air. So like when I lived in Knoxville for 4 years, it would be like 80, 90 degrees, but it'd be like 80, 90% relative humidity. It'd be just heavy, kind of like Florida in the summertime. So that's your relative humidity. But what's actually in the bud is your bound water. That's your moisture content. The problem, just like a sponge, you can wring out a sponge, and when you wring out a sponge, it seems like most of the moisture has left, right? You cut it in half, you'll still find moisture in the middle. So that's the same with bud, though. You leave it just like your sponge out long enough, it dries out. The challenge is getting that moisture back into the middle of the bud. It's not as easy for it to get in as it is for it to get out, right? So some guys do some hacks. I had a friend, I full on cringe because this guy, good friend I grew up with, he's in Southern Oregon now in Medford. He just got first place with his Granddaddy Purple, his GDP. His Forbidden Fruit, actually, 3 years ago. He has a really good GDP, cross Harlequin too. But he actually used to, if his bud got too dry and it was getting ready to go off the hill for sale, he'd spray with distilled water, a contractor bag, garbage bag, then put the flower in, then put it in a trunk on a hot day and force that moisture back in. Now, you're really testing fate, right? Because if you bring moisture up too quick, microbials are always there, right? Just like there's germs, good and bad germs on our hands at all times, right? So it's the same with the bud. Like, you bring up that relative humidity and try to force that moisture content back into the bud, especially if you do it too fast, the microbials are going to pop off. And that's why people, I got powdery mildew. I got that mildew. What's going on? You're trying to work it, man. Like, you got to be careful messing with Mother Nature, because she always has a plan. And it's really hard to recreate that plan.
She can be a bitch sometimes too, you know?
Oh my gosh, man. That heat wave last year, I took down a month early because of it, man. I'm like, what's happening in my tray? I can't believe they're going from clear to amber in a week, man. What's going on? It's true. It's true. We're at her mercy. That's for sure. So,
in that trunk, do you think he saw terpenes with the high temperatures, or were they not getting that high? Because can't those high temperatures destroy your terps too?
Yeah, this is you're gone. I mean, by the time your bud's that dry, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but typically, if your bud is that dry to where it's brittle, to where it'll break, you don't need a grinder. Chances are they're already gone. The only thing you really
just use it for edibles. Just use it for edibles then. Throw it in a fucking pot with some butter.
Yeah, if you're smart, you go straight to concentrate.
Yeah, fucking throw it in the oven at fucking 245 for an hour, and then fucking make a fucking bunch. Make a bunch of butter. You're good as fucking gold. Yeah. You don't waste. You don't waste. I don't ever waste.
The only guys that try to bring it back, to answer your question, Earl, like the only thing that they're bringing back is the smokability, the squish, and the weight. So if you're trying to hack to get your weight and to get what most people would be attracted to, of course, again, you're falling short on the head. So what they'll do is they cheat and throw some fresh bud on top of that stack, right? So they open their pound bags, rehumidify, then throw a topper on it, just like that shot of vodka on the top of your drink to make it seem like it's strong. That's what they would do. And they try to cheat the system. But when it's gone, man. When the train's left the station with terps.
I would see that they did that wrong. I don't ever pour. That's more waste. I pour a little bit of vodka in the straw, and that's it. That's all you got.
I know one guy, he put it, make sure it was at the bottom for people that are using the straw. He's like, I'm going to put it at the bottom for the straw sippers.
Just throw a little straw. You'll never know. Earl was in the industry too. I was in the industry for 23 years. Earl ran bars too. So, I mean.
I was a DJ, so I was over on the sideline from you guys.
we always made sure the DJ drinks were nice and strong.
Dude, you know what's up. Keep them coming back to the bar. You know what's up. Don't play too much good music.
Rehydrating in the bag. Can we use a moisture pack if we needed to?
You can. Again, as much as I feel like at certain times individuals on that side, because those are active atmospheric modifiers, right? So they do one thing and they do it well, right? So if you need to bring it back, that is the safest way to go. I mean, gone are the days of tortillas, banana peels, lettuce heads, throwing it in a trunk. Like, if you're going to do it safe and definitely keep it around, again, that 58 to 62. That's the ideal range. Some guys, again, they'll cheat. They'll find, because they are less expensive, they'll find humidity packs for cigars. They're up in like the 72, 75, 80.
Ooh, you said cigars. I was going to ask you, do you store cigars in here?
Yeah, we do.
That's what I had that thought like 30 minutes ago, but then I got stoned again. I forgot. But that was one of my questions. I know a lot of cigar smokers out in the world, and that's that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they might throw in a pack with it, a humidity pack with it too, to keep a little bit.
Well,
if you're Cubans, you might want higher.
If you're traveling, my father-in-law used to do. I mean, if he was out on the road and didn't have his humidifier with him, or he would throw it in. He would throw his stuff in a fucking Ziploc bag, and then put another Ziploc bag and put like a couple of wet paper towels in there and leave the Ziploc open, the second Ziploc open a little bit. That's how he kept when he was on the road.
And you can do that with cigars, right? So I'll tell you why. There's one element in tobacco that allows you to have an RH as low as 40% or as high as 90%, and you aren't going to have the microbials pop off. And you guys probably know what it is. What's that one thing that tobacco has everyone loves that's in it, right?
Nicotine?
Nicotine.
That's what I love.
Is phenomenal for not letting any microbial growth happen. So to your point, you can keep your sticks on the moisture side and not worry about it because the nicotine won't let that microbial growth occur.
So, but you can use these for cigars then if you wanted to, though. Nice. That's all you cigar smokers out there. There you go. Yeah. So what percentage of humidities? Go ahead, Earl. Sorry about that. I couldn't hear you.
I was just saying, and the blunts. That means
yeah,
all the blunt smokers.
Yeah, I'm surprised some of these papers. I mean, backwoods included, that don't run moisture. To your point, I mean, stuff's just going to dry out and split.
Yeah. So, I smoke a lot of the I like the palms.
King palms.
And there's a couple other different companies out there too. I like if they used what you guys did, they keep that because if you have it for a while, it gets dried out and brittle and cracked. The ends get all crackly, So, and when you're trying to stuff them, that's the worst when they're cracking on you. So, these companies should look out to Grove on that. So, what percentage of humidity is recommended?
Really, mid 50s to mid 60s. Anything over 65% is the danger zone. That's when microbials pop off. That's about, for those that use a moisture meter, about 14.5% moisture content or bound water in the actual flower. Keeping it that mid 50s, mid 60s. I know most guys out here we don't have a problem with humidity. But most of my friends growing up always kept it around the low 50s, just be on the safe side. So if there was, again, to Earl's point, if there was some sort of storm or something that brought in and changed that barometric pressure, in the ambient, then they knew that they were in that safe zone, or for some reason moisture got introduced to the environment. They knew they had a little more cushion. So I'm usually, I like my stuff about 59, 60%. Some guys like it a little bit drier if they're rolling a bowl or a blunt. Some guys like it a little bit wetter if they're doing a drier vaporizer. It's all personal preference at that point, but that's kind of the range. Mid 50s, mid 60s is ideal for bud for sure.
Nice.
Yeah.
Earl, can we hear you?
Is there?
There he is.
Yeah. Is there a percent that you think is better for longevity? You think the 55 is better, like overall? Like, is there any tests you know of where a lower like that 55 might keep the terpenes a little better?
We've looked into it. Most of our studies have been focused around. Obviously that proof of concept initially around our technology, but moisture is a natural preservative. So I'll say that much. So if you're able to keep it, now again, it's a fine line, right? You guys, there's different probes and sensors and stuff that might be on the horizon from us in some point, but I use Govies and I love it. I put it in there, it lets me know it's fairly accurate. They're inexpensive. But just do yourself a favor, and even if it isn't a Bluetooth-enabled sensor, just keep a sensor with your bud, and that's all you need to do. But keeping it in that higher 50s, low 60s is optimal for maintaining that right moisture content for longer shelf life, for sure.
Sweet. And then this is Earl's question. We just lost him, and I want to keep this rolling. So
for sure.
What or how do you recommend to rehydrate that's not a humidity pack? Something sitting around the house, wet paper towel. You kind of talked about this a little bit, distilled water, fresh cut leaves kind of stuff.
That's exactly, it's very old school, but to your point, a lot of guys would do that. I'm a big fan of distilled water, even when I'm popping seeds. I'm all about the distilled. So using the distilled water and creating, I think you kind of mentioned this with your friend's dad travels with cigars, that kind of creating a climate within a climate. So trying to control as much as possible. So a popular hack, to your point, is having something in it, and it could be something as simple as a sterile sponge with distilled water. but something that's within a container that you can keep your bud in that increases that ambient RH. And that's really, to be fully candid, that's what an active atmospheric modifier is doing. It's just the advantage of the ones that we now have in this day and age is that they're actually two-way, not one-way. So they can balance it based on the technology of that packaging. But if you really want to be traditional, it's not that different than what you do in a humidor. You know, you have beads, or you have a sponge, or you have a stick. You have something that wicks moisture, but dissipates it at a very balanced rate at an ambient temperature. So that's all you need to do. And just make sure you have that sensor so you can keep an eye, because if that relative humidity gets too high, you want to kind of get ahead of it. You're starting to get into 65, 70. Take that out of the environment, because chances are you're going to get that perfect state with the flower.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Good hacks.
Can I put plastic bags or open jar or something similar to in the Grove bag?
Absolutely, man. I do that all the time. That's I'm like you. I've got a stash, so I go to events like Hall of Flowers or Emerald Cup and such, and friends always give me a handful of bud, which I love, and I want to keep it as fresh as possible. Sometimes I keep it in the packaging because I'm a marketer. You asked what I do. That's my core focus is marketing. So I geek out. I've got all kinds of containers and packages. I mean, like I've got like even little like tins for, which is not doing any favor for keeping the flower, but I got little tins and stuff sitting around. So I do, man. I literally take that. Again, I always use my 1/4 pound usually. And I just put it in there, and I know it's going to create that perfect environment and just seal it up. So the stuff that I'm not going to consume today or tomorrow, I know it might be better for the holidays to share with friends. That's exactly what I'll do. So that's the most common. And then we also have guys that they get stuff in jars at shows, and they come by and get a free bag, and they literally pour it out in the bag and leave the jar on their table. And
Smart like, people.
Yeah. Smart people. Especially if you're traveling, man. They've got the hack. They go home, they use the little iron at the hotel to heat seal the top so it's smell proof. I don't know where they go after that, but Bob's your uncle, man. Like, hey,
hell yeah! I like it that people are gonna come up and give you some stash, and you're gonna get some, and you got your bags all around you. Just I got 3 or 4 I'm going home with. That's the best when you get really good weed from people that take care of their home grow, and I love home grow. I love people at home grow. I've gotten a lot of good home grow for people to talk about on the show. I love it. So I'll be carrying those bags with me everywhere.
Exactly.
So. What didn't we cover? Like anything we didn't cover?
Man. No, I think we went through a lot. I mean, you guys honestly had really good, really well thought out questions. Some people
Big Earl, baby.
Like,
Big Earl.
Yeah. Was it
Big Earl?
Earl, he's a converter. He gets it. These are really good, unbiased questions. They're very valid questions. I try to answer as objectively as possible because, like some of your viewers, I was a hungry. I popped my first seeds when I was 13, 14, man. I mean, found them in a dime bag that I got from a friend, so I've been doing it since the old days. And, just being open-minded and understanding that there are things out there to not just make your life easier, but to make the end product better. And so I got to a point in my career, and I'm at an age, which we discussed, where I can make that decision. I only want to work for companies that have products I believe in, that I support, that have the core, the culture and the core values in line with what I believe in. And again, that's his company, that's his product. But like I said, you had all the right questions. I'd say keep it out for what we have. For anyone that's into fresh frozen, we've got a solution now, but we've got some next level stuff. We're coming out with a vacuum seal solution, which I'm super stoked on because there's plenty of people use them for everything. But let's just say people that want to be more discreet or want to share it even, keep it even more long-term and not share it right away. We have this next level solution that still creates that ideal environment, but does it in a vacuum seal environment, which is huge. Because again, that's where people either don't have time to cure, or it might not just be time, it might not be space. Like Earl mentioned it, what he's talking about is what a lot of growers do. I run into growers over in Europe and they're like, Lance, like my grow room is my dry room, is my cure room, is my trim room, is my, it's everything. So if they can cycle in that another crop, let's say that 4th crop of the year for an indoor grower, then it just makes their life that much easier. So it's definitely stuff like that that's beneficial, but man, you guys had all the right questions. I don't think there was anything we covered. Just keep it out for more technology from us.
Go ahead, Earl.
Can you guys hear me now? I was just making sure I came back right on there.
Yeah, we got you, man. We got you. So we asked all the right questions that Lance was saying. So, and you did a phenomenal job at all these questions in our podcast practice yesterday and last week too, going over all this stuff because we thought this was really important for people to learn about the cure and to learn about your bags. So, Earl, I know you cut off a couple of times, but do you got anything else to ask Lance before we let him give his tags and plugs and fun stuff like that?
No, man, that was awesome. Maybe one thing. What if I am using, maybe I'm old school and have a couple peanut butter and jelly bags with a couple different strains in them, and can I putting that into one larger Grove bag?
Yeah,
is that a possibility? Recommended? Would you wrap those up at that point? Would you just leave those open at that point? What do you think there?
At that point, you leave it open. I mean, just being cognizant that there might be a little bit of mixture of the terpenes because they are going to go into that contained atmosphere. Usually there's no harm, no foul there, but the purist would probably want to separate and segregate. But yeah, we kind of discussed that a little bit, making it a catch-all bag just to keep everything in the ideal environment. James Loud just did that he had a contest, and every entrant, although there were a few entries that actually entered with our, within our Grove bags, but every entrant he put into a Grove bags to normalize and make sure that they were finished in the cure before they actually started judging. And I thought that was a huge honor because he is like, we need to, it was the same genetics, obviously different growers, different environment. So the geno is one thing, the pheno is another, but he wanted to try to normalize and give people who didn't properly cure the advantage or people that overdried the advantage, try to normalize a little bit more. So he did exactly that. He put all the samples, they were all sealed in their containers, but he put it in our grow bags for an extended amount of time so he could try to normalize that environment as much as possible. So definitely a game changer.
Sweet. Yeah. Tell us where we can find you at, Lance.
Yeah. So as far as company, at Grove Bags or Grove Bags IG, Grove Bags on FB, grovebags.com. And then myself, I'm 805 Lance. You can find me on IG or Lance Lambert on LinkedIn. Definitely love helping people out. For folks out there that are thinking about getting into the industry, now I will disclose, having consumed since you're a kid doesn't technically make you, an expert. Or don't label yourself as a cannabis consultant. So we've had a few people, they taught jazzercise last year, and then they jump on LinkedIn. They say I've been consuming since I was 14.
Love this guy.
I mean, it's funny, dude.
I love this guy.
I was speaking at an event up in Canada, and one of the guys like, always do your background on your consultants. I'm like, yeah, because you saying that you're an expert because you've been smoking for the last 20 years is like me saying that I should be a urologist because I've been going to the bathroom since I was a kid. Like it doesn't translate. So be honest to yourself. But if you are passionate, bring your passion and your experience, no matter what it is, into this space. And so that's why I love to manage and mentor people in that direction. Hey, if you work for FedEx or UPS and you're tired of the man, we need logistics people. If you work security at a concert, we need people in the security space. If you're in marketing, sales, scientists, doctors, lawyers, HR, marketers, salespeople. I mean, I've never worked in an industry where there's such a vast, diverse community of people that we need in this space. But bringing the passion for the plant is definitely a bonus. It's not a requisite, but it's a huge bonus if you want to get into the space. So that's one thing I will leave everyone with, and find a cool company to work for. It's not all about the money. It's about the happiness at the end of the day. The sooner people figure that out, the more happy they'll be in general. So that's kind of my words of wisdom.
I love it. Cause I say I don't want to be an expert in anything because then I'll stop learning and growing.
Yeah.
So
day you stop learning is day you stop living, man.
Right that's it. That's it. Yep. That's it. Man, Lance, we really appreciate you coming on. Big Earl, I appreciate you reaching out to Grove and to Lance and having Lance come on. This has been a solid episode, solid education. This is all about education on this show. So I appreciate that. Sure. Also, not only just education, you talked about and didn't actually say it, but the stigma, stomping it, beating it, education, freeing the plant. You've talked about a few things that we advocate and talk a lot about this show. So I appreciate that. And, you've been growing for a long time when you sprinkled the infield with some fucking seeds you found. So I love it, Lance. And we appreciate you sharing stories and talking with us. So Big Earl, what's the one thing we didn't talk about, Lance, that we need to talk to him about right now when it comes to not curing, but to the grow? What do we do?
That's what I was going to talk about with the curing, actually. Do you think if someone sprayed CalMag in those bags, it would do anything better? I know you want to add it to every other part of your grow, but the CalMag, Do you think any kind of CalMag could improve any of that? I don't know. No, I know I do it with my turkey bag. It's everything better, Lance.
Asking the wrong guy, man.
Everybody,
you're talking to a guy who's just hanging out on regenerative farms all weekend last week.
CalMag. Everybody out there in the world, don't forget the CalMag. Peace.
Oh my gosh.
Check out our cannabis lifestyle brand online at 8decades.com. Our custom smokes and accessories are perfect for your coffee table, bedroom nightstand, or kitchen counter. They're designed for you to show them off. The Canna community is also loving our hemp and cotton blend t-shirts, sweatshirts, scarves, and hats, finished off with our 8 Decades logo. We've got some awesome long-lasting goods that will be your favorite for years to come. 8 Decades, because a 9th decade of cannabis prohibition isn't acceptable.